So the Trump administration is getting a $170 billion funding surge for ICE and Border Patrol. That's going to go through 2029. Officials say they plan to hire thousands of new agents and open new detention centers. But 66% of voters say they're concerned about ICE detentions and deportations. That's according to our Fox News polling. For more on this, we're going to bring in former acting ICE Director Jonathan Fahey. Jonathan, always great to see you and talk about this subject with you. I want to talk about that polling, call for number 3 here. So obviously, Trump ran on the border, fixing the border. The border's closed now. Barely anybody's crossing. But a majority of Americans apparently disapprove of his handling of immigration. There's obviously been controversy about getting illegal immigrants out of the country and ICE and Border Patrol operations. There's been pushback all over the place. How do you read into that polling there? And should there be alarm bells going off for the Trump administration ahead of the midterms next year?
Well, I think part of the polling is Trump, in many ways, has already solved the problem. As you know, from spending so much time yourself down at the border, there's just nothing going on down there, and people aren't coming over. So a lot of Americans still don't see the overall threat of illegal immigration. And the Democrats, frankly, they've spent so much time disrupting and obstructing ICE in every respect, along, with the help of the media, that I think they have sort of advanced a narrative that's been helpful to them. But ultimately, I think this is going to go back Trump's way on the polling and also public safety, because we're going to see, we've already seen the crime numbers where they're going to be this year. We're going to have record decreases in crimes, particularly the most serious crimes. We're also sort of dovetailing on your last story. We're going to have a massive drop in overdose deaths. So people will be able to see that these things are working. Plus, on top of that, wages for Americans are rising. Jobs are going to American workers. So all these things, once they all come together, people will see that President Trump's policies really do benefit Americans. And the Democrats' narrative, they always put illegal aliens ahead of public safety, ahead of American citizens. But I do think they've spent so much, the Democrats have spent so much time on the disruption. But I think when the numbers come in, next year settles in, I think it'll be a lot calmer. People will just be moving out more smoothly, and quality of life in America will get better.
And to your point, Democrats have been resisting ICE operations pretty much at every turn. And Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota, no stranger to that. Take a listen to what he said here, essentially saying that ICE raids in Minnesota are potentially white supremacy. Take a listen.
This is what happens when your own federal government wages war against you. This is what happens when they target communities for their own benefit. This is what happens when they scapegoat. And this is what happens when they no longer hide the idea of white supremacy, when you hear the Vice President of the United States talk about now white people won't have to apologize for being white. I would not put it past this administration to target midnight mass services amongst folks going to worship, because that's who they are.
Jonathan, what do you think the American public thinks when they hear sound bites like that?
Yeah, Tim Walz always sort of seeks out the new low in rhetoric, and I think it really does show they don't really have an argument, because you hear him and you hear Pritzker and some of these other people talking about how it's harming the communities, but then when you take a step back, you see things like crime is down, things are better in these communities, so it's really hard for them to maintain that argument in any way other than the short term. But it really just, we've seen Tim Walz, remember, I think it was last May at a commencement speech, no less, he was calling ICE agents Nazis, but again, if you had a serious argument, you'd make it. If you don't, you call people names. And that's what Tim Walz is doing, because there's really no defense of the Democrats' position of basically mass amnesty for all the people Joe Biden brought in here illegally. It's interesting, Donald Trump, they're offering $3,000 for people to leave voluntarily. The Democrats should be praising that effort, because it doesn't include any arrest by ICE, any interaction with ICE, and yet they still don't like that. So we know the real agenda has nothing to do with ICE, nothing to do with ICE agents or white supremacy or anything else. It has everything to do with mass amnesty for all of the illegals that they encouraged and brought in under Biden.
Well, 2026 is certainly setting up to be a heated year on this topic, because as we mentioned off the top, ICE is getting a whole lot of money. They say they're hiring another 10,000 officers. That's going to more than double their rank and file. So there's going to be a lot more operations out there, and probably a lot more ticked off Democrats. Jonathan Fahey, great to see you, and Merry Christmas to you.